What's up, Fish Tube? Bearded Bob once again, doing another check-in, check-up, update kind of thing on tanks in the fish room here. This one is my 40-gallon, this is my Neocaridina Cull tank, and I also have a colony of blue star Endlers in here. As you can see, they've done quite well for themselves. I started off with like a fry pack of 10, I want to say, and then right away a bunch of them died, of course, but this is the colony that was born out of that. I'm really liking the colors. These guys have done pretty well. I've sold a few out of here, but you can see some of the males floating around there, the nice big blue stripe. Of course, the hot water tank just kicked on, so that'll be fun for the rest of the video. But yeah, so this tank used to have the giant pile of moss in here, and most of that got taken over by hair algae. It was very devastating. It is what it is. So I've still got, you can see this bed of moss going right here. Underneath that really thin bed of moss is a big pile of brown goop, and that's where this moss was that had taken over this whole half of the aquarium, and all the moss and all the stuff that was underneath it died off and just built like this layer of mold down there. And it was, once I removed that moss, it was pretty bad. It's still fairly bad in the middle here. I don't know if the camera is really not picking it up very well, especially because I didn't clean the glass. Good job, Bob. Anyway, so underneath all this is still just tons of mold. So what I did was I grabbed a spare filter that I had and just threw some carton filters in it and a sponge filter on it. And we're just stirring up the muck and trying to get it out. I don't want to get in here with my Python to gravel vac it, because I'm worried about all the shrimp and all the babies of these guys here. So it just is what it is. It's going to take quite a while. I have the filter on the back there too is running. I clean both of these every single day. Clean the pre-filter, I should say. So I'll pull that whole sponge and pull the tube off the top here or whatever, and bring it over to the sink. I don't have any chlorine in my water here. I've got 2 carbon block filters coming into the house. So no chlorine. I can rinse everything off right in the sink. It's kind of nice that way. Did just recently, so none of my tanks in the fish room for most of the summer and almost all of the winter so far didn't have any heaters on. Heaters were still in the tanks, but I had turned them all off during the summertime, and I just never turned them back on in the winter. These tanks were getting down into like the mid-60s. I figured it was time, so we just maybe last week turned on all the heaters that I have in here. I've started replacing all of my heaters with these Finnex external you know, they have the external dial on them here. Let me do a close-up real quick of that. So you can adjust the temperature while you don't have to stick your hand in the water, so that's pretty cool. Like that. They're about 30 bucks a piece on Amazon, so I've been doing a number of orders, a couple every month or so or whatever. I'll buy a couple and switch them out. They seem to hold up. I've had a few of them for at least 2 years. The rest of them, I think I have, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9 of them right now, maybe 10 because I think there's one on this tank here too. So I have 10 of them going, all the way from the 50 watt all the way up to, I think this is a 200 watt that's in here. You can see it in the back there. That's the tube running along there. Really like them. They kind of lie as to the temperature that you set it to on there. It doesn't really match up to what the actual water temperature is. So you just have to adjust it, which is nice. A lot of heaters are that same way. They're just not, I don't know, they just lie. I don't know what else to say about it. So you always got to watch the temperature. Normally you got to stick your hand in the aquarium. And in this case, this is one of the only tanks left that has just a big pile of duckweed. Just because it's just so hard to get in here with the net to scoop out the duckweed, because these guys just jump right in the net every single time. Somebody gave me a suggestion in my comments to use a pick. I'm guessing like a comb. And he mentioned that he had seen it on Foo the Flowerhorn's channel, and I do remember seeing that years ago. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to pick up some combs and I'll see if I can get in here and scoop some of the stuff without scooping all the fish. So that'll be nice. Same thing with the shrimp. So if you get in here, sometimes the shrimp like to ride around on top. I don't know if there's any up there right now. I can't really see from this angle, but they like to ride around up on top there and skim the surface, kind of eat all the food that's left over and biofilm and whatever's growing in there. So specifically in this tank, there's not a whole lot of plants going on. You can see this giant, the whole side of this aquarium is full of green and bronze crypts. I do have one AR cardinalis there was a huge stalk in the middle back here, and it got really leggy and was just growing a crown on the very top. So I cut it back and I shoved it in here, and this is about twice the size that it was, so it's starting to do really good. It's down in this mulm and stuff, so I'm sure there's plenty of fertilizer for it. I do fertilize this aquarium for this big mass over here at least a couple times a week, so it has that going for it. This moss down here should start to kind of grow back. Once I get some nice fronds going, I might still end up sticking some back over in here, but I'm going to keep the moss to a minimum, and I'm going to make sure that I'm cutting and selling portions of it constantly, because if you don't, it overtakes itself and it'll start dying back. And once it starts dying back really bad, as you can see all the mulm down there, you can see some down here actually, that brown stuff, that's all that's left. This whole side was just covered in, like we're talking a ½ inch of mulm in this tank. It's going to take quite a while with just these filters running to get all that stuff out, but I think it's better this way, that I don't lose any fish or any shrimp. So yeah, so just the crypts, and then the AR cardinalis and the moss. I am gonna throw in some other stuff. I've got some Rotala Hydra. As you can see, this tank's going through a bacterial bloom because I stuck in this giant piece of driftwood in here. This is the pleco tank. I also threw in a ton of plants in here. They're all just small pieces of plants that I moved around from other aquariums, just to get things kind of moving along here. As you can see, these guys are just still doing great though. Bacterial bloom will probably last about a week or so. It usually does, especially with that giant piece of driftwood. So you can see I've actually got some floating stuff in here. This is mostly Rotala Hydra. There might be some hornwort in there too. As you can see, it's all just a big mess because I threw it in there from their tank when I was trying to scoop out all the duckweed out of there. And since this one was going to end up with duckweed for a while, I figured I might as well keep the plants alive. They're floating as a big mass just because I don't want to untangle them. But I think I might come in here and just pull out some of the Rotala and just plant it down on this side in the filter, or this side in the dirt, or maybe towards the back. There's a ton of snails in here, as you can see. So since I changed from using my straight tap water, which is a pH of 8.4, it comes out, it's literally liquid rock up here. It's really hard and alkaline. When I stopped using that water and I switched over to remineralizing my own aquarium water for every tank, and I use this salty shrimp GH/KH plus, I was bringing it up to 200 TDS from 0 from my RO filter, and then recently I've been kind of upping it because you can see these snails like this guy right here. I don't know if it'll focus on him, but it probably won't. So he's missing some calcium in his diet. Will it focus? See, he's kind of like a bluish kind of color. It's actually more of a white almost. You can see some down here that are more white than anything else. And that's just because they're having a deficiency. You can see this whole bed of snails that have kind of passed on. And the snails in here, they're getting their extra calcium probably just from these shells of the dead ones. You can see one in the back there on that rock, or a few of them on that rock that are deficient. So I started upping my concentration of minerals up to 300 now. So we'll see if that helps in a few months, and we'll move on from there. Might have to add it up to 350. We'll see. It was coming out at 450 out of the tap, so we'll see what happens. Anyway, I think that's just about it. You can see some of the Neos down here in the bottom. They're all kinds of different colors. These are some of my favorite Neos in the whole fish room. They come out of this tank. But otherwise, make sure you like, subscribe, all that stuff. I'm going to post those heaters. I'll post a link for those heaters. It's an affiliate link, so I'll make $1 billion if you click on it even. So that would be great if you could do that. Also, check out the Patreon. There'll be a link down in the description. Otherwise, have a good one. Peace.